Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Donald Trump, the president of these United States, wants to be a dictator. He is trying to be a dictator. He said it multiple times this week. Today, he explained why a lot of people, I think in his own head, think he should be a dictator because he's stopping all the crimes.
So the line is that I'm a dictator, but I stop crime. So a lot of people say, you know, if that's the case, I'd rather have a dictator. But I'm not a dictator. I just know how to stop crime.
Ah, yes, Donald Trump, tough on crime. It just depends on who's doing the crime, doesn't it? Beyond all his administration's lies and the mobilization of federal law enforcement in Los Angeles and Washington and members of the U.S. military, Donald Trump is the most unabashedly pro-criminal, pro-crime president of my lifetime. In fact, I started compiling this list of all the people that Donald Trump has pardoned or come to the aid of just since taking office in January, and it is mind-boggling. On his first day in office, Donald Trump pardoned every last one of the January 6th insurrectionists who stormed the Capitol and attempted a coup against the U.S. government on his behalf. Roughly 1,500 convicted or suspected accused criminals. They included hundreds who were handed lengthy sentences for very serious felonies, such as assaulting police with deadly weapons. Many of those rioters have had, maybe you won't be shocked to hear this, serious brushes with the law since they were pardoned. Andrew Tate is one example. He used a metal whip and bear spray to assault police officers at the Capitol. He was sentenced to 6 years after bragging about these crimes to a woman on a dating app. 2 weeks after being pardoned by Trump and freed from prison, he was arrested in Texas for soliciting a minor for sex. Then on the second day of his presidency, Donald Trump pardoned Ross Ulbricht, founder of the Silk Road and online black market for drug dealing. The guy took hundreds of millions in commissions on sales of methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin, and other opioids. I mean, you could make a case he was the biggest drug dealer in American history. He was serving 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole when Donald Trump pardoned him unconditionally. On his third day in office, Trump pardoned Washington, D.C. police officer Tara Sutton and Lieutenant Andrew Zabowski. Sutton illegally chased a 20-year-old man on a moped for 10 blocks. He struck another car and died in the crash. The 2 officers then tried to cover up their role in his death. They were sentenced to hard time for obstructing justice. Trump pardoned them, falsely claiming the motorist they had killed was illegal. They have since been reinstated to the D.C. police force. Trump also pardoned former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich, convicted on 17 counts of corruption, including an attempt that we all remember and all heard to sell off Barack Obama's former Senate seat. Trump pardoned him using the former Democrat's criminal case as a way to discount the myriad investigations, indictments, and convictions that he faced. He pardoned Brian Kelsey, a Republican former Tennessee state senator, a guy that was 2 weeks into a 21-month sentence for a campaign finance fraud when Trump pardoned him. He illegally funneled nearly $100,000 into a failed congressional campaign. In May, Trump pardoned Todd and Julie Chrisley, TV reality stars who were serving federal prison sentences for wire and bank fraud. The lavish lifestyle they flaunted on air was apparently bankrolled by fraudulent bank loans the couple hid from tax authorities. They were two of nearly 24 convicted fraudsters, thieves, and drug dealers Trump pardoned in May. Again, this is way beyond the pace of any president in my lifetime. He also pardoned Trevor Milton. He was the founder of an electric truck company. He was sentenced to federal prison for exaggerating the company's technology, up to and including a fake commercial in which they pushed an immobile model of the truck down a hill to make it look like it could really drive fast.
With all the cameras in place, the director calls action and sends the truck. Powered by nothing but gravity, this shell of a truck gathers a big head of steam. By the time it passes the film crew, it's cruising at interstate speed. Beautiful. Cut.
The truck didn't actually work. Milton went to jail for it because he defrauded people. Last year, he donated $1.8 million to Donald Trump's campaign, and Trump pardoned him in March. Thanks to that pardon, Milton will not need to compensate his shareholders who lost millions. Now, that is just a partial list of Trump's pardons and commutations since he took office 7 months ago. It's a wild list. It's unlike any list I've ever seen or ever covered. But in that time, he has also gone out of his way to accommodate some of the worst accused and convicted criminals you can imagine. like the manosphere influencers Andrew and Tristan Tate, who have been accused in multiple countries of rape, human trafficking, and sex with minors. In fact, they have been held for 3 years on charges in Romania when allies in the Trump administration worked to have them repatriated to the U.S. And within weeks of being at home, Andrew Tate, who denies the many, many horrible charges against him, faced new legal trouble.
In a civil suit filed in Los Angeles this week, model Bree Stern accusing Tate of sexually assaulting and choking her at the Beverly Hills Hotel earlier this month. Stern sitting down with NBC News from Los Angeles in her first interview about that night.
Talk to me about what was going through your mind in that moment.
I was scared to death. I was terrified that I might die.
Remember, the Trump administration went out of their way to get the Tates and bring them into the U.S. And it's also important to remember, even as Trump and his aides were falsely accusing hundreds of men, from hairdressers to soccer enthusiasts, of being hardcore MS-13 gang members and disappearing them from the country, that federal prosecutors under Trump are now quietly dropping charges against the actual bona fide leaders of that gang they spent years pursuing and charging. In fact, Trump is actually freeing those gang leaders and sending them to El Salvador's president, Nayib Bukele. And the Trump administration may be doing it to cover up corruption. According to a New York Times investigation, U.S. prosecutors have amassed substantial evidence of a corrupt pact between the Salvadoran government and some high-ranking MS-13 leaders who they say agreed to drive down violence and bolster Bukele politically in exchange for cash and perks in jail. Don't forget, Trump also intervened on the behalf of a man named Dahoud Hanid Ortiz, a U.S. Venezuelan dual citizen who returned here as part of that prisoner swap from Venezuela last month. This individual was convicted of bludgeoning 3 people to death in an office in Spain where he was looking for a man he suspected of sleeping with his ex-girlfriend. He murdered 3 people, according to Venezuelan courts. He was charged in Madrid. He was brought back to the U.S. and freed by Donald Trump. According to the most recent reporting, whereabouts unknown, just out in the country. And then, of course, there's Ghislaine Maxwell, the Palm Beach socialite who recruited and groomed young women for child sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. Many of Epstein's accusers say Maxwell also abused them personally. She knows as much as anyone alive about Epstein's depraved crimes and his associates, and the Trump administration moved her to a minimum security prison against existing federal prison policy, giving her an extraordinary waiver to be in a prison she couldn't be in because she's a sex offender. After interviewing her for 2 days and getting her on tape saying she never saw Donald Trump be anything but a perfect gentleman. These are the criminal, an unbelievable list of people who have done truly awful things, most of them convicted felons, some accused of doing truly awful things. Each one of these alone would be a scandal that wrecked another administration. Do you remember the single Willie Horton ad in 1988? And all that list of all these people, I mean, MS-13 kingpins, people convicted of a triple homicide, a woman who's the accomplice of the most notorious sex trafficker in American history. They all come from the man who claims he's undoing American carnage, fixing a rampant crime problem that largely exists only in his mind and serves, obviously, as a pretext for targeting his political enemies. Whoever they may be, targeting people like recently, and we'll get into this later, Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook claiming she committed mortgage fraud, needs to be fired, or raiding John Bolton's home and office, saying he mishandled classified information, threatening to reopen the Bridgegate investigation because former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie criticized him on TV. Right? All these people that are his enemies are criminals, or backing criminals. And he claims that so he can seek retribution. A rhetorical exercise that flies in the face of reality and the statistics. I mean, what's crazy about this right now, as opposed to, say, 2020, 2021, when we saw a big spike in crime around the country, is we are in the midst of, under the last 2 years of the Biden administration and the first 8-9 months of this year, having nothing to do with Donald Trump, historic and really genuinely encouraging huge drops in crime, both violent and nonviolent. But that doesn't matter. He spent the decade saying the opposite of what we know to be true. There has never been a president in recent American history who has gone out of his way, who has done more to free more criminals and accommodate more crimes than Donald Trump.